Hey, look, not just one mediocre YouTuber, but two. Hello, everyone. Bront CatHerder here. We're having some fun talking Raid Shadow Legends, and I am not alone. I've got some guy, you might have heard of him. I don't know. You've got a YouTube channel or something like that, right? How you doing, Ash?
Yo, Bront, I'm happy to be here, man. I'm great. How are you?
Oh, pretty good. This has been fun. It's been a long time coming. I
Yeah.
have been a clan member of Ash's for quite a while, about 2 years going on. We've chatted off and on, mostly in clan chat, occasionally otherwise, and I figured it'd be kind of fun to call on a friend and let's make a video. I guess it happens occasionally on YouTube. People do these collab things. It's
Heck yeah, man. I've been
but
watching you grow over the last couple years, and I'm excited to get you to hopefully we get you 1,000 subscribers so you can be in the creator program. You absolutely deserve it. Bront, I'm sure your viewers probably know, but you've been just over and above in terms of how helpful you are to our clan mates and just how positive you are. So it's an absolute pleasure to be here, man, and talk some epic champions today.
yeah, I figured
Heck yeah.
we it's always nice to go over and we always focus on who's these cool legendaries, who's the meta, and there's a short list of the epics that you can. Everyone will name these epics. You say what are your top 5 epics, and there's maybe 10 of them that'll show up on that list, but
Yeah.
let's go take a look at some of these epics that are, not quite meta. And, there's plenty of ones that can probably help your account. Sometimes they might be end game, sometimes they may not be, but you know what? Everyone's in a different place. So let's go help folks out. I'll let, you're the guest here. So let's start out.
Bront, I brought my best picks for you, man, for your audience. These I love all the epics that I'm going to talk about so much today, and I actually want to start with a guy that was I think it was a fusion or something, or maybe a guaranteed, but it's Duden the Runic.
Ooh,
Duden the Runic. Do you like Duden, Bront?
Duden the Runic.
You know who he is.
I know who he is.
All right.
Yeah, there he is. There he is.
All
Sylvan
right.
Watchers.
This big fella.
I have actually
Yeah.
not had a chance to fool around with him, but I
All
have
right.
heard you praise his kit. Tell me what is so
I
good.
really like this guy. First of all, he looks really weird, but I something about me digs it. I kind of like it. And I think he was one of the first Sylvan Watchers added to the game, I want to
Yep.
say. The thing is yes, he has a shield on his A2 ability. He is equal to his HP, which you can scale pretty well at 20k. He's increasing the duration of all ally buffs by 1 turn, which is always useful. Especially considering it's on a 4-turn cooldown.
Yep.
On his A3, he's got a taunt. Is great for Sand Devil. Is great for devouring or preventing devouring in Hydra. But taunt just in general can be helpful. I use him in Centranos a lot. Like there's a couple floors that are very tricky, even in the end game, that he is absolutely clutch on. He's got taunt, he's got a strengthen, but he has counterattack on himself as well.
Yep.
So that's what I knew about this guy, really, right? But the A1 is what really blew me away and just serves so much utility for my team. The fact that he has a counterattack for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown means you can keep that counterattack on Duden pretty dang often because he has taunt. He's getting attacked quite a bit. And on his A1, he has a 60% chance of removing a random debuff from all allies. So, it doesn't jump out the page at like, wow, that's incredible. But when you parlay that with the counterattack, he's an amazing cleanser. He's got a little bit of kind of a Doom Priest vibe, but the mechanisms are a little bit different. But he's constantly cleansing off of all these counterattacks off all allies with that A1. And then he's protecting everybody with the shield. He's got like I said, he's got the increased duration of buffs. He's got the taunt. So I really like this guy. Is he an end game, like we said at the beginning of the video? Is he an end game like a stud? Probably not, but he has a lot of utility, whether waves, anywhere you need a taunt champion, and especially faction wars areas like that. And I love him in Centranos.
Yeah. So Centranos would be great. And you worry a little bit about the 50% chance. Obviously, RNG is going to hurt you a little bit there at some point in time, but you can book to 60%.
Yeah, and
Um,
with all the counterattacks, like you'll get it. You'll
yeah.
get it. It was
And
it was
you're
more dependable than I initially gave it credit for when I invested. I was like, wow,
exactly.
he's just cleansing my team.
And especially for Centranos, you only need to get through
Yeah.
once. So you've got to run it 2 or 3 times, at some point in time, he's going to get a
Exactly,
string.
exactly, exactly.
Awesome.
Who's your first choice?
All right. Probably not necessarily super off meta, but I think of some of the decreased defense champions. Duck the Pierced doesn't get the love that he does. Duck the
Oh
Pierced
yeah,
is
that's a good
so
call out.
awesome.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's actually not for the reason you think. Obviously, Duck is well known for the decreased defense and the decreased attack if he critical hits. You need to make him critical hits. You might as well build some damage in him. He can hit pretty hard. He's a good defense-based champion as well. A1 is a two-hitter, so he's actually Fire Knight viable for some progression early on. Decreased accuracy doesn't suck on the A1. Not necessarily a meta thing. But where he's actually underrated is that A3 provoke is a place that can be done on Hydra, and it can actually be done through the Poison Cloud. So if you're struggling for progression on Hydra, you've got the decreased defense and decreased attack, two really good skills, and he can be a provoker. Now, he's not going to
Mhm.
keep it up every turn, but you know what? If I can provoke and keep that head from cleansing every other turn, that's still better than nothing. And
Yeah. Yeah.
and he's unkillable as well, too. So if he ends up getting a couple of attacks on him for wave clear, he can be very good. He's very good for the Centranos waves because you can place that provoke. It's not everybody, but you can say, I don't want this champion to take their normal turn. Cardiel, I don't want you to put your revive on. Cardiel, you're provoked, that sort of stuff. He got a lot of utility that I think people overlook just because that provoke, it's an okay skill, but it's
Yeah.
got just enough utility to make the rest of his kit shine even more. And honestly, he's a staple of my Orcs Faction Wars teams, and it's never going to leave because he's just so good otherwise.
100%. I totally agree. I mean, a tankier version of Stag Knight,
Yep.
granted, a 10 speed lower, right, as a base.
Mm-hmm.
But then he does bring the provoke as well. So, like, I mean, people talk. The reason I mentioned Stag Knight is obviously he has the decreased defense and the decreased attack on the same ability. Some similarities there, not 100% the same because of the critical hits. But with that said, adding that provoke is really nice. Like, even wave content, I've been there and I've been like, wow. To your point, like I think everybody is like, 4-turn cooldown, maybe 2 random enemies, like on that's it. But you're right, it does. It's nice to have sometimes like that
Yep.
little extra provoke, right? So I totally agree with you. And even having the big version of decreased accuracy is helpful too at a 40% on the A1.
Yeah, and
And
that's
it's
the
because
thing.
on
It's
each hit.
Stag
Yeah.
is everyone mentions Stag as one of those top 5 big epics. Whatever else.
Yeah, like
Duck
rightfully
kind of gets
so.
overlooked a little
Yeah.
bit just because of that stuff as well. And that to be fair,
Yep.
I will take a Stag over a Duck in a lot of cases, but that doesn't mean
Yeah.
that Duck is like there's a couple times I would take Duck over him. So
Yeah. No, for sure. For sure. Good call out.
awesome.
Who do I have next? I'm gonna go with one of the most insane epic burners in the game. She's a skinwalker. She's void, and it's Frenzy the Cackler.
Ooh, I have not
I
had a chance to play with her much.
she's really good. She's really good. I think people get thrown off maybe a little bit by let's just start with the A1. She's got instant activation of burns on her A1 ability. Really, really nice. There's not a lot of instant activators for epics. Like what other epic champions can even instant activate?
Yeah.
Dark Kale. I think that's it. Am I missing somebody? I don't
No, I
know.
mean the rest of it's poisons for like a Venom Mage, for example, and that's about it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So she's got that going for her on her A1, which is nice, 50%, but still it's solid. Especially you put her with an ally attacker or something like that, you'll get
Yeah,
more
get
procs.
counterattack on her somehow, Yeah.
Exactly. Then she's got the 3 hits at random on the A2. Each hit is placing that burn. Fills the champion's turn meter by 10% for each burn placed by the skill. If you book it, it's down to a 3-turn. I think people get thrown off by, she's not an AoE burner, not for me or whatever. But like, they're still insane against the Ice Golem, usable against anywhere you need a burn, still going to serve you well. On her A3, though, this is what like puts her over the top as like, wow, she's beast mode. She's got an AoE 100% provoke
Mm-hmm.
on a 4-turn cooldown when booked. She got an increased defense on this champion. She's defense base, and she deals a heck of a lot of damage. She has like solid multipliers too. So she's kind of like a defense-based nuker. She's super tanky. She's a burner. She's a burn activator, and she's a provoker going all the way back to her A1 because she has provoke. She is being hit, or she's going in with the A1. Sorry, if you put the counterattack on her, like you said earlier,
Mm-hmm.
she's going in with the A1. She's activating the burns, and then increase the champion's defense by 2% each time a burn debuff is activated on an enemy, up to 20%. So she just gets even tankier. So
Yep.
she can deal some insane damage. She's got defense and dungeons on the aura by 30%. Super solid. Just a really good control damage dealer tank.
Yeah, and I mean, multiple hit on the A2, you could actually use that in Fire Knight for some progression, and then she's activating the
Yep.
burn, speed that up quite a bit for progression. Decent for Hydra for some progression as well. Heck, you pair
Yeah.
Duck and Frenzy together, and you've actually got Provoke covered, right? So,
Exactly. People think of the Mordecais, the Skrinks, rightfully so, when they talk about epic burners. But it's not an AoE, so it's a little bit different, but she is bringing a lot to the table that they don't have either. The activation, the provoke, the bringing increased defense on herself as well.
that is awesome.
All right.
All right, so we are going to go to a champion that I can't tell you how many people have told me they have fed this champion because she's
Okay.
free. And maybe you've already got this one then, but we are talking about and faction here, barbarians. We are talking about High Katoon.
Okay.
High Katoon does not get all the love because Apo is always who's the best early speed booster? Apo. Who's the best early speed booster? Apo, because he's so accessible as a rare. But she's got the same 3-turn cooldown, increased speed, 15% turn meter boost.
Same
She actually
ability. Yeah.
has a speed aura, which is so incredible early on. She's got a decreased turn meter, albeit say 50 bookable to 75%, so it's not the greatest there. And then she's got the decreased speed on the A1. She is usable in any content early when you get her. She is amazing for faction wars later on. You know, you basically get for free faction wars for the barbarians, Syl with High Katoon and with War Maiden, and then you just need to throw 2 other champions. But I can't tell you how long I used High Katoon in my arena because I never got another speed booster on my account until I got Arbiter. I
Yeah.
actually didn't have an Abo. I got Arbiter before I got Abo because weirdness, you know. It's
Wow. That's wild. And I totally agree with you. I never really used High Katoon in the early game, but that was only because of circumstance. Because I pulled Seeker very early on, and I just used him as my speed booster, and I had Apothecary as well. But nothing against her. Because like
yeah,
when people come to me and say, okay, like there's all these champions, they give us for free in the beginning of the game. And there's like, who should I use my resources on? I always say like your starter, War Maiden, campaign farmable, and High Katoon. After 30 days, you get her. So like those are 3 staples of like, unless you pull something crazy in the meantime, you can't go wrong for all the reasons that you mentioned. So I totally agree.
yeah, and she's got a decent base speed at 104, which even for an
Yeah.
older epic is actually pretty good. You don't need to book her. Obviously, it makes her better if you do, but she only needs 1
Yeah.
book in that speed buff. So if you absolutely need that, you hit the epics until you hit that 1 book and you never book her again.
Yeah.
It's not that bad. And obviously, later game, you throw books in her and she's still good because that speed kills in raid.
100%. 100%. Totally agree.
All
Good call
right.
out.
Yep.
Old school, but it still has it.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go old school. I'll go old school with you, Bront. I got an old. Everybody loves Fat Man. Everybody loves Farrakhan the Fat, right?
Yep.
And rightfully so. He's a beast. But an undead horde catacomb counselor is an old school ally attacker that no one seems to give any love to at all, And he's not as good. I don't think he's as good as Fat Man. But by far the second best ally attacker out of every epic out there, in my opinion. He's got to increase attack on his A1, which is nice because he actually deals some serious damage compared to other ally attackers. He has a triple hitter on his A2. Really good there's a specific floor of Centranos Soul Cross, so harder content. There's a Fire Knight that they purposely, I hate when they do this, but they purposely like don't give you any multi-hitters on the A1.
Yeah.
Every champion available is single targets A1. So that Catacomb becomes like the MVP of that stage because against Fire Knight, you have a triple hitter on the A2 and you have the ally attack on the A3, right? So MVP, but still you have a little heal and decent damage. It's based off the damage inflicted on the A2. And then it's a 3 ally joining on an ally attack on a 4-turn cooldown, right? So again, he's going to join in the ally attack, unlike Farrakhan. Again, I'm not comparing. Well, I guess I am, but I'd still take Farrakhan. But really solid ally attacker. The only knock is survivability and speed. Those base stats do need a touch up. But hey, if you're looking for an ally attacker, there's not that many 3 ally attack options out there for epics. There's 2, and he's one of them.
Yeah, I mean, I remember trying to use him early on, and he was not that great. But I will admit that raid has shifted to where ally attack is so much more valuable now than it was 2 years ago. And it's not great. It's definitely not Fat Man. But again, there's a reason Fat Man ends up in end game teams. This guy doesn't. But
well, hey, he ends up on one of my end game teams.
Oh yeah,
Zitranos. But I hear you. If you don't have Farrakhan and you're looking for an ally attacker, I think he's just like, he'll serve you well.
Yeah. I said, you're not going to do Fire Knight 10 with this dude, but you might do Fire Knight Hard 2.
Yeah, for sure.
Might even help you through regular Fire Knight, because ally attack is actually really useful in regular Fire Knight too. So
100%. Yeah. He's a good kind of like, yeah, he just, to your point, the better they make champions nowadays with power creep, they're making some nasty A1s in this game. Like some back in the day, like their first ability was just usually like you're just doing damage, like maybe placing a small debuff. But nowadays, ally attack is so powerful because not only is a lot of bosses more susceptible to it, but also A1s in the game are just a lot better. We just talked about Frenzy with the instant activation, I can go on and on. So the better A1s get, the better champions get, the better all these ally attackers get as well.
Oh yeah. So
who you got next?
All right, who I got next? Let's go to the dwarves, and we are going to talk about Runekeeper Dazdurk.
Okay, good choice. This is a good one.
Yeah, I like him. He gets overshadowed, and to be fair, he's a void epic, which might as well be a legendary for a lot of people as far as getting it. So a lot of people don't have this dude, but he is so underrated. And his A1's meh. I mean, I'll say that there. 35% chance of leech on an A1. There's better, but it's there. It's this A2 that's awesome. Increase attack and all allies turns, and then fills turn meters by 25%. He's basically doing Arbiter's job on that A2. 3-turn cooldown with epic books, easy to deal with. And then he's got an AoE cleanse that heals everybody and puts a continuous heal on everybody. 4-turn cooldown, massive, massive heal based off of his max HP. He's got 20k HP as an epic, 105 speed as an epic. Very good, useful in arena. I mean, even late game arena, if you need a weird booster because you don't have somebody for like 3v3, he can do the job for you there. All kinds of places he can be useful, and just overall a very solid kit. He's basically an Arbiter light of sorts. He doesn't have the revive, but he's got better healing and, still good other stuff.
You're absolutely right. I've been a fan of Runekeeper Dazdurk for a while, and for all the reasons that you mentioned, big speed boost, big heals, full cleanse, no arguments here, and he's pretty fast, 105 speed.
Yeah, and it's an all battles ally aura for attack. I can say that, mouthful.
Indeed, but yeah, no, I hear you though. Really solid, like good, kind of an underrated. I don't know, like he's a great setup for obviously attack-based nukers.
Yeah.
He's just really good, really solid.
I mean, the other one you hear about is Gorgorab, who I'm not going to mention this video, but it's very similar type of kit too, another Arbiter light style kit. But
yeah,
very good.
Yeah, same thing that I mentioned in when you were talking about High Katoon is I pulled Runekeeper and I loved him, but I was already using Seeker in that role, like arena wise. Not to say that Runekeeper, like they're quite different in a lot of ways, but just with that 30% boost and the extra turn, I just stayed with Seeker. Not to say anything about Runekeeper, but if not, like he's a really super viable option for you.
Well, and it depends too. Seeker is definitely offense oriented, whereas Runekeeper is definitely more defense oriented and keeping you a team alive.
Exactly.
Too, so,
yeah.
All right, who you got?
All right, I got I'm gonna go back to Sylvan Watchers, man. I want to talk about Ayala Lifebraid. Have you tried her out? Do you have her?
I have not. I think somebody mentioned she was a Fire Knight, and I looked at the kids like, I don't know what you're talking about, and so I kind of dismissed her at that playtime. So
I really like this champion. So I think that maybe, I mean, I don't see her as a Fire Knight like goddess or anything, but the instant turn ability on her rhythmic flow is so unique, right? So maybe this is what they meant. But I guess to start there, a 12% chance of activating an instant turn effect on a champion or ally after they use an active skill. listen, it's not like having a relentless set on all allies, but 12% procs a lot, because similar to an 18% relentless, it procs more than you'd think it would
Mhm.
throughout the course of a battle. And getting those instant turns, they just always feel so good when you get them, right? And she just has it on her passive. She's just doing this automatically, right?
Yep.
So that's always really cool. She's restoring max HP on her A1 to the ally with the most destroyed HP, which is, useful. At first, I kind of looked at her as a Sand Devil, specialist, because she has a sleep on a 3-turn cooldown on her A2. But forget this. Like, the sleep to me is not super exciting outside of Sand Devil,
Mhm.
but she's placing an increased accuracy on all allies on a 3-turn cooldown big version. She's restoring some HP. She's got block debuffs on a 4-turn cooldown, but it's a 2-turn block debuff in a pretty big heal, 30%.
Oh, that's chunky.
So
Yeah.
to get a 2-turn block debuffs from an epic is very hard to get, right? It's really solid. With the heal on top of that, with the instant turns, with the increased accuracy, she really surprised me. And she's fast, 108 base speed, right? She
Mhm.
really surprised me. She's a good, she's like the perfect kind of, okay, I have like 4 champions. I have all my fundamentals covered. Now, what do I need in the 5th slot? If you needed some heals, look no further, because you're going to get the heals, the block debuffs, and the instant turn capabilities with increased accuracy, which really is helpful in progression and is helpful in the end game in some areas as well. So she really surprised me. I wasn't sure what to think, but I think she's really, really solid.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm looking at the kit, I'm thinking Sepulchre Sentinel-like, but unfortunately, that's where this falls down, is you can't use her in Clan Boss because that instant turn is gonna kill you in Clan
Yeah, you
Boss.
definitely don't want to use her in anything speed tuned because of that. But
But,
but
outside
yeah,
of that, and to be fair, if you're not speed tuning your Clan Boss, you're suddenly better than anybody else, so,
yeah,
you
for
know.
sure. So yeah, big fan. I invested in her, not really knowing how I'd feel about it at the end of the day, but I was like, wow, she can dish out some just absolutely insane heals like over the course of a battle. Like that 30% heal, it's their max HP, but boy, it really she's very competent with it. It's big.
Alrighty, so,
All right.
I am gonna hop over to Dark Elves, and one of my favorite for a long time, a Sylar, who, has an
Hmm.
interesting outfit. Um
Indeed.
but Sylar is honestly the epic goddess of speed control in a lot of ways. Unfortunately, the aura is only faction crypt, so it's not super exciting. A1 attacks all enemies, but it's an all enemies AoE, so she's great in a stun set. You've got an all enemies decrease accuracy for 2 turns on a 3-turn cooldown if you book it. Again, great for control, great for stun set. And then this A3 here is just so amazing for an epic. 40% turn meter decrease for all enemies and decreased speed. This, I used her for so long. It was Icatoon, Sylar, decreased defense champion, Nuker on my arena for the longest time. And I can't tell you how many times I'd talk with, even content creators when I was talking in chat with them. They're like, well, you can't use Sylar for that. You want to increase your own speed. No, I want to drop everyone else's speed and put decreased speed on them. Then they don't take turns. It's just,
Yeah,
and then,
indeed. Yeah, she's very, very good. I
yeah,
agree with you. Yeah.
and good for the good, really good for the wave clears as well. For again, she was part of my wave clear team when I was using champion. We'll talk about in the other video we were talking about earlier, but yeah, it was her and a couple other champions just controlling their way through the waves and slowly but surely whittling the other team down. If you got a manual couple waves and take the long run with it, she's a great champion to do it with.
For sure. Nope, totally agree. I was kind of late to the Sylar in terms of actually using her on my account. I was kind of late to the bandwagon, but I was not disappointed. Like, really, really queen of control and AoEs, to your point.
Yeah, and I mean, if you wanted to use her for something, out of the box, the decreased speed is a place. Obviously, you're not gonna get the turn meter in Hydra, but you put her in Cursed or Provoke set, you can probably keep up the provokes pretty well, and you get the decreased speed on Hydra, which is so powerful in Hydra too.
100%. 100%.
All
All
right.
right. My
So,
last guy for you
yep.
is this is I tried to go a little bit outside the box here.
Mhm.
This is a guy that I heard only negative things about, and it's a undead horde void affinity epic champion. That's Kafru the Death Keeper.
Ooh.
Uh I looked at the in-game reviews. I, asked around a little bit. What do you think of this guy? Who's part of a fusion, I want to say, at one
Yeah.
point. But man, he really impressed me, this guy. Apparently, I have a thing for taunt champions because on his A3, he's got unkillable for 1 turn and a taunt for 2 turns.
Yep.
So very, very good for Phantom Shogun with the taunt.
Yeah, 2
good
turn on a
is
4 turn is nice. Yeah.
yeah, and very good for Hydra again if you want to try to control the consume or devouring or whatever.
Yep.
His A2. It smacks. It has a 4.1 defensive multiplier.
Wow.
Very, very good. Attacks all enemies before attacking, removes a random debuff from all allies. So we've got a little cleanse there as well. Again, for Hydra, fantastic to get rid of those true fears. Damage increases by 5% for each debuff removed from allies. Also heals each ally by 10% of this champion's max HP for each debuff that was removed from them. So we get a little heal, we get a little cleanse, we get a lot of damage, right? On his A1, he's transferring a random debuff from this champion to the target as well. What impressed me about, I should mention Nekret's Guardian. If you look at this guy's lore, he's all about being like a minion of Nekret the Great, right?
Yep.
Decrease the damage all allies receive by 10%. He'll receive that damage instead. So now he has that damage mitigation as well, which is hard to find from epic champions. 10% is pretty significant. So, man, you put it all together, you've got a tanky damage dealer who can heal, who can cleanse, who can taunt, and stay alive with unkillable. I don't know why people kind of hate on this guy so much.
Yeah, I mean, I guess his stats aren't super amazing, and the kit doesn't read like, I got to use him in this particular location. But at the same time, yeah, everything you're telling me about him is awesome. I can see him being Hydra. I mean, even if all he ends up cleansing is some of these poisons off the champions, that's that much, removing a poison and healing 10% is a huge swing in how much damage you're taking on your team.
100%. Yeah, you can use it. He's again, Phantom Shogun, I think he's S tier. Outside of that, I think just progression, basically, obviously, undead, if you're in faction wars, Undead Horde, he'll be amazing, right? Hydra, he can be serviceable, right? But even like Ice Golem hard, areas like that, he's tanky enough. To your point, his HP does leave a little bit to be desired at 18.3. But you build him tanky enough, man, he can absolutely just taunt and he has unkillable as well, right? So you can just taunt, unkillable, damage, heal. He's really, and damage mitigate too off that passive. So he's tanky enough that where he could take like a big Ice Golem hit even with ignore defense. So yeah, overall, I just really like him as a progression kind of damage dealer and support.
Yeah. And it's it's kind of nice to actually get that support and the damage dealing at the same time.
And the same, yeah, exactly. I definitely want to pair him though with an increased defense champion, right? Because for the damage and for the survivability.
So before we finish my final one, do you have an honorable mention you want to throw out there?
Oh yeah, how about let me throw a couple of my favorite nukers. Yeah, real quick. Pan the Bowhorn. This guy smacks. He's a Sylvan Watcher epic.
He actually is usable in Fire Knight hard for the freeze on the A1 as well.
Yes. He surprised me with his damage. Dirindil, massive damage, a Dark Elf Force
I love
Affinity.
that dude.
And Nagorio really can smack as well, the Shadowkin epic. So I guess those are, there's a lot more I'm leaving off the table. Those are some of my favorite nukers that I was gonna maybe add to the list. I'll give you one more old school too. Seneschal, Bannerlord epic.
Ooh,
he's pretty dang cool, man. He's got perfect veil for 2 turns on a 2-turn cooldown. It's only 1 ally, but 100% uptime on perfect veil with a continuous heal. He's got an AoE provoke 100% on a 4-turn cooldown. I think he's not like an S tier end game epic, but he's a lot better than people give him credit for.
Yeah, I to be fair, I tried him. I could not get him to work, but I think he's one of these epics that you got to invest in to make him work, and I wasn't in a mood to invest in him. So it's probably a little bit of that too.
You need enough provoke, and obviously it needs some survivability because he's getting hit a lot,
And this is the old school epic design too. The guy needs 6 books on his provoke to make it 100% and a 4-turn cooldown. Just
It's true, but he only has 2 on his A2.
That's true. So. My honorable mention, just because I think a lot of people kind of know he's awesome, but I think people forget how awesome Eurogrim is. Eurogrim,
yeah, he's a beast.
I didn't have a solo champion for a long time, and I built Eurogrim to solo dragon, so I was dragging food with at times. I mean, to be fair, it's not an easy build, although it's a lot easier now that we have all these ascensions and stuff like that too.
Yeah. Yeah.
But he was great for dragging him along to solo the boss on the dragon. He could do it for ice golem as well. Heck, I actually built a team where I had him farming food in Ogren faction wars. By the way, don't do that. It's a bad idea, but you know, it was fun to do. And
Right? It's about fun at the end of the day, right?
yeah, but you know, 4 minutes later, you get, you know, your 500 XP on everyone, and you say, "Why did I do that?" So,
Indeed, indeed.
but Thylesia is one of my absolute favorite epics.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm pretty partial to her because she got me through not Fire Knight, Knights Rev Faction Wars. She was my nuker and was the reason I was able to get through Knights Rev as my second faction, and it almost was my first faction, which, you know,
Nice.
2 years ago
Yeah.
was like people didn't believe me on that. It was just Knights
One of the
Rev was.
trickier factions back in the day. I'm not sure if it still is. It's been a while, frankly, but
There's
yeah.
been I mean, even with the epics are still kind of hit or miss, but there's now another reviver, and there's a lot
Yeah.
better. The legendaries
Malkith.
were really
You
bad. They're
almost
now
made my
really
list
good.
too, by the way.
So, but
Yeah.
Thylesia is just so amazing because she requires 0 books, so she's a great progression champion. You've
Mm.
got the A3, where you've got the decreased defense for 2 turns on a 4-turn cooldown, bookable to 3, but it's 100% without books. And it's an AoE, and it hits really, really hard. Then she's got the 3-turn cooldown without books, A2, that extends the duration of all debuffs on all enemies by 1 turn. Going into her passive, where she hits somebody under decreased defense, she's throwing Hex up 50% of the time as well. So you suddenly are getting Hex out there sometimes. And then our
Mhm.
A1 will apply debuff spread to people with Hex. So you can get extra debuffs out there as well. Not 100% reliable, but it's a 75% chance on a A1 for an epic unbooked. You know, that's pretty good. And
Yeah.
she
No.
absolutely nukes. She is amazing as far as a nuker. Big problem is that 1270 or
HP.
yeah, that
Yeah.
HP is just low. But and
It
she's a little
is, but
slow.
I agree with you though. It's crazy, but there's a Marinix. When the Marinix fusion came out,
Oh,
uh I thought I went for it and I got her. And then I thought to myself afterwards, I was like, you know what? Thylesia is kind of better, or at least the same. And this is a legendary compared to an epic, Uh, and it just speaks to to everything that you mentioned on Thylesia. I totally agree. I really love that champion. And even to your point on the books on her, if you didn't want to book her,
mhm.
it really helps. I mean, it's a bummer that the decreased defense is on a 4-turn cooldown, but with that extension on the A3, on the A2, it really helps mitigate that too. And
Yeah,
then Hex has become more and more and more and more valuable the longer, because she was one of the first Hex epics to be released, right?
yeah.
So the more, they didn't even have the extra damage when she was released. So now that passive is a lot better than it looked 2 years ago.
Oh yeah. You know, and yeah, she's a little slow with the 97 speed, but not bad for an epic. And
Nah.
again, the 4-turn, or there's like 2-turn cooldown or 2-turn decrease, 4-turn cooldown with the 1-turn extend. She's generally going to be faster than the enemy, which means you're pretty much going to have that up almost 100% of the time anyway. So,
Yeah.
but
I
yeah,
agree, man.
yeah,
Good list.
good list. This has been a lot of fun. I've got a couple that are definitely new for me, so I definitely appreciate that.
Of course, of course. I love trying to find value in not bad epic, but unsung epics. Like, it's one of my favorite things in this game, because frankly, the epic class and raid, especially after empowerment too, helped a lot to kind of help keep their stats up to inviolable.
hmm
So yeah, there's a lot of good ones out there. There's tons that we didn't even mention. So
Yeah, and
thanks for
then
having me,
it's
man.
all kinds of fun stuff. I mean, I to be fair, I did a video back when Epic Empowerment was released. Don't empower your epics, and it's a lot of it is figure out who you want to empower and who you don't. Don't just throw everything away. But it really has been a game changer, I don't think I've really changed that position. Get your faction guardians first.
Oh,
But
well, I agree. Yeah, I was gonna say I disagree, Bront, but I agree. If that's what you're saying, because
yeah,
I
get your
agree.
faction guardians first, and
Yeah.
then I'll throw this out this video before we sign off here. But I actually don't think you should ever empower your seer because I think seer should be squishy, and if you empower her, you've suddenly given her so much extra HP. Maybe she's not going to die on some of your speedrun teams. But I guess it depends on if you need the crit damage from her or if you need the tankiness for another team.
Yeah, yeah, true. There's
But
definitely definitely different ways. It just depend like we said at the beginning, or I'm not sure if it was my collab or your collab. I think a lot of it just depends, right? It
oh yeah,
depends on your account, your teams, your champions, and what you're trying to get out of them.
but definitely been fun. Been great having you
Likewise.
on. This has been
Thanks for having me,
awesome.
man.
So appreciate it. Thanks everyone for hanging around for the end of the video. Appreciate any of these supports. If you get a chance, subscribe to me. Subscribe to that other guy over there if you've never heard of him before. I think he's got a YouTube channel or something, and he's an awesome dude. Appreciate you, Ash. You take care. Everyone else,
Appreciate
much
you, man.
love. Take care, everyone. Bye bye.